What's going on, guys? Sitting here at Yadkin Valley Hemp with Abner Brown, Nick Gordon. What's going on, guys?
Not much, man.
Good, man. Just coming down here to check you guys' store out. We're in Elkin, North Carolina right now. These gentlemen have their own CBD line. Say it for me. I'm terrible with that name.
Akhenaten Extracts.
Akhenaten. See, I'll get it one of these days. These fellas make their own oils. They have their own farm. We were just out there showing off their flowers. Why don't you guys tell me a little bit about what you guys got going on?
So, we've been processing since the beginning of 2019. That's when we started. We got a rosin press, and we started picking up hemp flower from local farmers, and we were just doing it out of a building on our property that our landlord owns. So the first thing we made was an alcohol-based tincture.
Okay.
So it was straight grain alcohol with rosin pressed hemp extract.
Okay. So did you already press out the oils first, or did you do your alcohol solvent and then press it out?
No, the alcohol was just the carrier. So
okay.
Yeah, as you know, most of the tinctures people call them oils is because they're oil based.
Right.
We used the traditional method of using alcohol as the carrier, so it wasn't used as a solvent to extract the hemp.
I see. That's right. I remember.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. But you guys do all your oil press and rosin press. You don't do alcohol
Right.
based like most other people.
Yeah, we don't do any, at the moment we're not doing any chemical extractions. Everything we do is with the rosin press. We will be expanding to a new facility
Nice.
within the next couple months, and once we get into a bigger facility, we want to start looking at getting the distillation equipment and expanding into that. But at the moment, it's all rosin pressed. The alcohol tincture we quickly learned was not what most people wanted.
It's a little rough.
it's a little harsh for all but the most experienced hemp users.
Sure, yeah. You can tell the difference in them for sure.
So most of what we do have an oil-based line for everything now. So we do the full spectrum CBD tinctures, and then we pick up raw materials to make Delta 8 tinctures and CBD tinctures as well. And we have CBD isolate tinctures that we purchased raw materials.
Nice. Who you guys eating flowers from? Just any local guys around here?
Pretty much. Yeah. Like anybody, we like to work local for a couple reasons. One, because it just helps the local hemp economy.
Oh, absolutely.
And two, it gives us the opportunity to go actually look at what we're buying.
Yeah, that's true.
And most people are nice enough to give us an ounce or so to test.
Nice.
Because even some good-looking hemp, we just might not produce a lot of oil.
No, of course not. It depends on how they grew it, what their inputs were. I mean, how they even drive the stuff out too. That really does make a difference. Especially breaking down the cannabinoids, that UVB's on them too long, you start to convert it into CBN. Makes you nice and sleepy.
Yes, it does. So we've got a lot of good farmers around here that know what they're doing. They are easy to work with, and we've been lucky to have access to people like that, because without those people having the quality that we try and maintain would have been a lot.
Sure, no, absolutely. No, you guys have good quality products. I know you guys for a long time. I remember when you guys first got this thing started, and it's expanded. I mean, you guys have got, how many different lines you got now? Of your actual oil contracts? You just had, one or two when you guys first started out?
We only started with the one alcohol tincture, and we've expanded from there. We did it, and we added a coconut oil line to it, and now we've got, we do 3 or 4 different kinds of tinctures, topicals, CBD, and Delta 8 vape carts. I mean, we do as much as we can with with the different cannabinoids that are out.
That's awesome. You guys got different strengths as well? Like 250s, 500s, or you just one straight across the board?
Well, we generally stay around one strength, but we can make custom stuff, and we do that for several customers since we do so much in-house.
Sure, absolutely. That stuff's great for pets, too. I give it to my dog all the time. When she goes to the groomers, I mean, she's got that separation anxiety. It's ridiculous. So I'll give her some of my 250s, and it calms her down. Like when I the first time, I mean, she was losing her shit. I mean, it was ridiculous. So the next time, one of the women was there, she's like, "Oh, you should try our CBD products." I was like, "I think I don't want to, give her some of that." Sure enough, and then when I went back and they were like, "Whatever you did, do it again." And so you can tell it really does help. I mean, it's a great product.
we've had the same feedback on human customers who they start taking this stuff and go to see their doctor or chiropractor, whatever they see, and they just get amazing results, So we're not doctors, so we don't like to make a lot of claims.
No, of course not.
But the feedback we've gotten for different things has been pretty incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I even had one of my customers came in and was asking about it. I was like, yeah, her daughter had epilepsy, that's what you put, like had seizures and all that. So yeah. So she had that really bad, and they tried everything. The doctors have had her on all this stuff, and was just telling me the story. I'm like, just try this. I don't even want to charge you. Just take it and let me know if it works. Come back like a week later, and she's like, this is the best thing I've ever used. So you said her daughter could actually sleep through the night without her having, because usually she was sleeping either on the bed or on the floor with her, just in case she has a seizure or what goes on. And said first night that she actually slept all night long. So this stuff works, but I think it's finding. It has to do with some of the cannabinoids too. Because I know some of them, because even the recreational stuff, they were doing tests on it. I forgot what study it was, but the guy found the product, worked for him, whatever he had. They ended up using a different strain, and he was going back to the same stuff. So it was one of those cannabinoids in there that was fixing whatever his ailment was. So that's a great product.
Yeah, and it's been interesting to see from wearing the shop how the same thing doesn't affect everyone the same. And that's the general consensus we've come to is there's something about different strains, how it combines with each person's own physiology as to what exactly they need.
Absolutely.
And that's been really interesting to being able to start kind of trying to dial stuff in and you see things start to help.
Well, yeah, I think even the different strains have all the different terpene profiles too. Everything's bred from all over the world and it's all grown differently, so each one's going to have some kind of different effect on us. That's awesome, man.
I think that's the best argument for legalization as well, and for it being more in the patient's hands instead of being distributed through pharmaceutical companies and pharmacies, because everybody's different. Nobody knows for sure why certain strains work and certain strains don't for some people. So the best thing at this point in time, I think, is to have open access for people so they can experiment, figure out what works and what doesn't, and put their own health in their own hands.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And they want to give you prescriptions for everything out there, but don't want to let us use a plant that's naturally there.
And to restrict Delta-9 purely because of stigma that was all came from lies. And years of people making stuff up to demonize this plant.
For sure.
And now they're using that as an excuse to separate this one chemical out and sort of make it harder for people to get access to it. And for some people, that's the chemical they need.
Yeah. And I think they have to figure out a way to make their money off. Yeah. And that's what the whole thing is. Look at DuPont back in, the 20s when Henry Ford had the first hemp vehicle that ran off of hemp-based, alcohol, petroleum, whatever the hell he made out of it. And instantly DuPont came in, they're like, oh, no, you can't do that. That's, we'll shut you down, for using a product that's there, is they can't monetize on it because anybody and everybody can grow it. It's not like I can go make oils and gasoline to run my car, but, I can grow a plant, and at least use it for fiber-based, and there's a lot of good uses for this plant.
The progress that has been made in our state specifically is nice to see, but we're still a long way from where we need to be.
For sure. No, I agree, man. And you think this medicinal thing's going to pass through? I hope it doesn't. That's terrible.
Yeah, I'll let Abner speak more on that since he's dealt with his time with normal and dealt with that a lot more than I did. But yeah, it doesn't look very good to me.
It's definitely a bad law. Probably one of the worst in the country, unfortunately. But it's when you hit a point to where it's clearly about monetization and not about helping people in the slightest, there's a big issue. When it lacks home grow, when flour is something you can only get after trying other things and being specifically prescribed by the doctor, there's so many things that the bill is lacking. No one from North Carolina is going to even be able to be part of the market.
You have to grow in a legal state for 5 years or a medicinal state for 5 years. That's ridiculous.
And especially if you cap your competition 10 companies I think were
Yeah, I
going to be
think so.
awarded licenses.
Yeah, and they don't know who's going to have them already.
And you remove the option for home grow, you got situations like New Jersey's medical ran into. Ounces of the best thing you can find in the state are going to be 400 plus.
Oh yeah.
And what happens when you've got people that need something that strong but need a pound or two of it a month because they're in stage 3 cancer?
Yeah.
That's a death sentence for that person. They can't afford that.
No, God no.
Insurance won't help, and there's a lot to be. The bill's lacking a whole lot, and it seems to be gaining more ground, unfortunately, than anyone has in the state.
Well, didn't last year one went through the 4 committees, and the Senate, or maybe they died at that last committee, and it didn't make it to the Senate floor. It seems like it happens every year.
They've all died in just about the same place.
Yeah.
A couple years ago, the hemp bill went back and forth for 11 different versions to keep smokable hemp. But that's about the most that's going on with anything in a while.
All right. Anyway, what were we talking about? Talking about
medical laws.
Yeah, on how terrible all medical laws are.
And, the biggest thing for me with these medical laws and then separating out Delta 9 is I think it's important everybody keeps in mind that this is not a chemical that kills people. It's not a chemical you're going to get addicted to. There is no justification for making it a pharmaceutical and treating it like something you need to restrict access to. Because whether you, quote unquote, need it or not,
Right.
you can use it and it's not going to really do any damage.
There's been no deaths overdose
So we've
ever.
got thousands of years of people using this with 0 deaths.
Yeah.
So they have no justification for what they're doing other than money.
Yeah, I know.
It's ridiculous to have a victimless crime that at this point society doesn't even agree with the law on as a majority. So it's hard to claim society is actually the victim as they do in court when they don't see a problem with it. And but especially the taxes they want to put forward in the medical bill, they're ridiculous.
Oh, I didn't even see what's the percentage.
25 again.
Holy shit! Of course. The feds still won't be able to tax it then, will they?
No, it's
not
just
North Carolina.
it's just they always go with a 10-10-5 wholesale retail excise.
Okay.
And instead of calling it a tax, they call it a fee because taxes have to be designated where that money's going. If you call it a fee, you can put it back in the general fund and spend it wherever.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So, with a state that has close to double the population of Colorado, a 25% tax, if the market were fair, would make a lot of money. But not when it's only terminal patients that are forced into an overpriced market. People whose health care is already taxed, what they're having to spend money on.
Exactly. Especially with healthcare not covering any of it, that's ridiculous. For something that you can grow for next to nothing. That's what drives me crazy.
But there has been one positive side effect to all these medical laws and stuff, though, which is they've done a lot of investigating into what you can do with the industrial hemp plants and the other cannabinoids. So, a lot of people, I don't think, realize yet there's a lot more than just CBD that you can get a hold of. So CBN is great for sleep aid. Like we
you guys got some of that, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
The blue bottles there on the bottom, they're CBN tinctures. So it used to give out the CBD for sleep, but the CBN works so much better that, now if someone's specifically needing something for sleep, that's what
it makes you tired, man. It really does. Yeah. I've had some our hemp flower and left it in a jar. That way when that UVB literally will turn all leftover THC into CBN, and man, that stuff knock you out.
And the white CBG is really good for, the best way I can describe it is sort of mental clarity, a little bit of energy, more of a sativa effect.
Nice, yeah.
So I use a lot of that white CBG because too much CBD tends to just make me feel groggy and sort of spaced out all the time.
Oh, yeah. Well, that CBG is like the indicator of whether the plant's going to create THC or CBD. Well, that's what it's like the
starts like all that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then they started figuring out the other THC compounds that aren't illegal yet, like the Delta 8 THC, the Delta 10, and
You guys haven't got a hold of the Delta 10 yet, have you?
no Delta 10 yet, just Delta 8.
Are they even selling it? Like, I would have to be in a liquid form, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, obviously you can't grow at that high strength of CBD or
you're
THC.
You're seeing powdered isolates and the liquid high purity distillates.
Okay.
But it just depends on where you go. We've seen some people that say the true Delta 10 percentage is more like 2 to 4%.
Okay.
And a high purity when they can transfer it. And some people say, oh, we can do the whole 80%. So it's like all the other new ones that when they come out, it's hard to get to the bottom of what is the actual truth.
Especially when you're not there making it yourself, you know?
And finding a brand you trust is probably the best advice I have for anybody getting into hemp products.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people are buying stuff from tobacco shops or gas stations. They don't ask for test results. Yeah. They just grab whatever's in front of them and go. And then they have a bad opinion of hemp products because the first thing they got a hold of was garbage.
Just shit. Didn't do anything, you know? Yeah, you see that all the time. So, it was a $10 bottle. Yeah, probably didn't do a damn thing.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing we get. Like, we have Delta 8 gummies that are popular. 400 milligrams total in the bag, 40 milligrams of gummy.
So you guys make them yourself?
No, we have them produced by another local company just because they have more of a kitchen setup, like an approved clean area to do stuff like that. So we don't make any of our own edibles just because we don't feel like our facility's equipped for that sort of thing.
For sure.
But so our gummies are 40 a bag. Like I said, 400 milligrams total, Delta 8. I think it's a pretty fair price.
Yeah, I think so.
But we have people come in here and say like, well, I got something down the road. It's $10 a bag. And my first question is always, did you get the paperwork? And they say, either they go, what? Or they're like, no.
Exactly.
And so something can say 40 milligrams or 400 milligrams or whatever. But if the purity of the distillate was 75%, you're not getting full 400 milligrams.
Yeah.
Especially with Delta 8. That's why I'm sort of focused on that cannabinoid specifically right now. How many kilos have we returned? Because the test results we were provided were 20-25% higher than the results we got when we tested it ourselves.
To a guy, and they said that in these factories, like all these testing places, you can pay them enough money to make that anything that you want. I've seen that a lot with those high THC strains.
We've had labs call trying to get business and say, well, what do you want the test to say? Yeah. Okay, well, I know who to never go with. I want to know what it really is.
Yeah.
So when it comes to our brand, we don't trust anybody's paperwork.
Sure.
We retest everything we get in because we've had so many occasions where we bought something, we were told it was 95% pure, then we tested it and it was 75%. Yeah, and we get the same answer every time. Just like, this is the first time this ever happened.
That's the first time anyone was actually tested.
Yeah, it's like, because this is the first time anybody retested your stuff. So there's a big issue with people just, as long as they get paperwork, they don't care if it's accurate.
Right.
And they just roll with those results. And
well, it becomes a quality issue, especially when people rely on something that you've made that worked for them that time. You know, it's quality's always the issue.
So if anybody watching your stuff out there has tried hemp and had really poor results with it, I encourage you to find another brand.
Yeah.
Because it really does work. You just have to find someone who's doing it right and who's trustworthy and actually cares about the quality of what they're doing.
No, you're absolutely right. You most of the time it's the smaller companies. The same way with my products, I make all the things, I do it by hand, so I know what's going in there. And I'm not going to, if I'm not going to personally use my product, why the hell would I want to sell it to somebody else?
Exactly.
You know?
That's the thing. We both use this stuff. And if it don't work when we use it, we're going to redo the recipe for it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I would too, man.
I mean, there's been several occasions we had to do 2 or 3 tests or more to make sure we had a product that was hit the numbers it needs.
Sure.
I mean, it gets expensive, but you do what you have to make sure that what you're giving to people what you say you're getting.
Yeah, exactly. I'm the same way. I mean, most people out there don't care. You know, it's usually all about profit anyways.
Yeah, I mean, that's like you said, it usually is the smaller person because there's, and especially with folks like you grow, do everything.
Yeah.
You have full control of your line, and that stuff makes a difference. It really does.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell there's some growing. You know, you screw up on a grow, I mean, your potency isn't going to be what it was. I mean, you can definitely tell when you ain't knocking it out of the park, man. Your products are going to suffer in the end too.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we got into farming this year. So this will be our first crop this year, and we're going to start making all of our products with the stuff we farm.
Mm-hmm.
So and that was really just about vertically integrating what we're doing, so we could have control over the quality of everything in the equation. Control the quality of the hemp, then we control the quality of the extract, which allows us to control the quality of the final product.
Exactly, man. That's definitely the way to do it. Tell me about your processing. I don't know if we've talked about because you guys are one of the few that I've seen that actually does like a rosin pressing instead of using like that alcohol base. What size unit? What temperatures? What you guys do?
It's not a huge press. It's I think we've got a 4x7 set of plates from Low Temp Industries, and they work real well. I mean, the head unit still works for them. We've had it 3 years, well over 3 years now.
Yeah.
And that thing's never missed a beat.
Awesome. And what percentage do you get out of it? Like oil based to flower based?
So it depends. Everything's dependent from the flower you're extracting, and sometimes it varies from batch to batch. But we've seen the absolute high end is 14.5%, and a low end being 2 or 3% on certain flower.
Sure.
And it just everything collects different. It extracts different. It's
a better tasting product too. It really is.
I think so. Because you're
just using heat and pressure to squeeze out your oils.
Yeah, and when you're between some temperature varies from flower to flower, but generally you're between 190 and 200 degrees every time. And
so why does it matter on different strains?
Because of the consistency that comes out of it.
Okay.
So sometimes when you use a certain temperature on a certain flower, it's more likely for that resin to turn into the consistency of shatter.
Okay.
And collecting that is damn near impossible without sending it flying all over the room.
Sure.
And I'd rather deal with even a far more oily end of an extract consistency, because then you can at least pick it up while it's hot.
Especially when you're processing or into your oil tinctures and your cartridges, I'm sure it's a lot easier to work with that more oil base than it is that hard shatter base.
Yeah, and it's just because it reminds me a lot of how fish food tries to fall out of it. Like if you're trying to use that to shatter, it's in tiny little flakes, and you can't get big pieces of it usually, or if you do, the whole jar sticks together.
Okay.
And having to break that apart it's just a pain.
You say it's temperatures what makes that do that?
Or is
it the type of oil consistency in the flour?
You can usually change what consistency you get with the temp by either raising or lowering the temperature on certain flour. Like I found most of the time, the more we drop it on something that wants to do that, the easier it is to get an oil back out.
Okay, so it's like the higher temperatures are creating like that shatter hard density to it?
As best I can tell, that's what we're seeing with everything.
Because I've always been curious as that. Because I've made oils before, and it's like usually I've only made like a shatter one time, and I was like, I don't even know how the hell I did it. And it seems like it had to have been too hot of a temperature. Because usually if you can do like a hot water bath and then put it on just like a plate, it'll sit there and it'll all evaporate. It's that, I don't know, I have more of like that liquid oil consistency versus just that hard shatter.
Yeah, and it really is just about being easier to work with.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, especially making my oils too, man. It's like I've got to that point where mine gets so liquidy that I'd have to put it into the freezer so that way it'll pop off like the little parchment paper to get it into where I want it to go.
It happens sometimes.
I'm still old school archaic, man.
Hey, parchment works.
It does work.
Yeah, this is I guess you could consider it a more primitive method of processing, but it preserves all the cannabinoids and the terpene profile And the terpene profile is the big one. Anything that's been chemically extracted, the terpenes are gone.
Oh yeah.
And it's definitely more labor intensive, but that's what we always steer people towards. Though, if someone just comes in here and says, "I've tried something else that didn't really work. What do you got?" I always tell them try the full spectrum stuff, because we do have an isolate tincture where we bought the CBD isolate and made that, because some people just can't have THC.
Sure,
They got past drug testing work, so they might want the full spectrum, but it's not an option.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
But
that small amount of THC.
Yeah. But other than that, I always tell people take full spectrum if you can. And we've had I don't think anybody's come back and said that it didn't work. But we've had people take other stuff and say that did nothing, and they try that, and they're like, that does the trick. So it's either the terpenes or the other cannabinoids, but that can be the difference between a product that does work and a product that doesn't work. Now, some people do just CBD and it works just fine for them.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because we all have those cannabinoid receptors, but it's like how your body's going to process is really what matters.
But in most cases, people take smaller doses of the full spectrum. They're able to trust that the purity's there because no chemicals ever went into creating it in the first place. So that just gives people more peace of mind, sort of feel better about taking it. So,
I agree, man. I mean, I never used any products like, what the hell is this new thing? What is this CBD? I remember a couple of years ago, it's like nobody knew what people that's been in the industry. You know, a normal person, like, what the hell is this stuff? Am I going to get high? Well, what's going on? You know,
like we do want to expand into chemical processing just because there's so many things that you can't do without chemical processing.
Right.
So we want to be able to do those things, but we will never stop offering that product that's done with a rosin press. No matter what else we expand into, there will always be rosin press products.
It's definitely a great quality product.
Yeah, it's that, chemical processing's got its advantages, in a lot of ways, but we also didn't want to jump into it to begin with. We trusted this method a little more, and you were seeing so many regulations come when it came to high pressure or gas extractions. The issues with flammable explosions, and so we were kind of looking on down the line too. Like I don't want to get caught up by those regulations.
Yeah, I mean, it would have made our initial overhead huge, first of all. And we were looking at what the industry was already doing. It's like, there's processing facilities everywhere. Why build something that we can just make a phone call and have someone else do it for us?
Yeah, I agree.
So it made sense at the time not to do it, but now that we're expanding to the point we're at now, it's like, okay, we can probably start slowly adding this stuff on and just do it ourselves.
Oh, I know the work, man. It's a lot of damn work pressing all that oil, making all your own products. I mean, it's
the scraping is worse than the pressing.
Yeah, the weighing and the bagging of flour is rather tedious.
Yeah,
I've run through about 7.5 pounds in the last week and a half, putting it in bags. But like I said, it's tedious.
So, we've been fortunate in that our small processing setup allowed us to fit it in the back of the store.
Sure, because most of those things are huge, man. Any extraction equipment is huge.
Yeah, so while I've been out there with the plants farming, Abner processes in between helping customers.
Okay.
So, he literally runs the store and the processing facility at the same time, and that's the only reason we've been able to get to the point we're at.
Sure, man.
Now, and even when we move here pretty soon, we're going to be one street over.
Okay.
So we'll have someone.
Awesome. It's just to be right here downtown.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll have another person here watching the store while
I got you. So you don't keep this as your storefront.
Yeah.
And you're just gonna process it. Oh, okay.
But if there's an emergency, he can be up here in 5 minutes.
Sure. That's a good idea.
So we've added so many more products to the line, gotten more equipment to make them with over these last couple of years or so. The store's been open. Yeah, we gotta have a bigger place.
That's awesome. I'm glad you guys are succeeding, man.
Yeah, they're good problems to have, that's for sure. We've dealt with way worse.
I understand that, man. One more thing. Tell me about your guys' vape cartridges that you make. Like, explain, because I know, like, most people, like, it's the thinning agents is always the hugest concern, especially using VG, that vegetable glycerin, and polyethylene glycol, which is the worst things to cut it by. And most people like to use terpenes. I mean, which route do you guys go?
Terpenes.
Terpenes, awesome, man.
So yeah, I've had a lot of people come in and they ask about the carts. What is there PG in there?
Mhm.
Is there the vitamin E is the one?
Yeah,
everybody's
that's
scared
right. I
of.
forgot who that is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one that really messed people up last year. So yeah, we don't put anything in there that's not plant derived. It's our initial vape carts were the full spectrum hemp extracts, diluted down with terpenes to a vapable form.
Mhm.
Once Delta 8 came along, we decided there's really no reason to try and keep that little amount of THC in the vape cart. Because more people who are getting CBD carts at that point wanted THC free.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So,
especially at the beginning.
Yeah, mostly what we sell now are Delta 8 carts. So it's a Delta 8 distillate. Our most recent batch tested 93% pure. So it's just that Delta 8 distillate with about 5% terpenes added for flavor.
How does that stuff come in? Like thick oils, or is it blocked?
The
Like
Delta 8,
or is it crystallized?
it's blobby.
Yeah, they send it in the scientific glass containers, with the lid. You can heat up and everything, but it's like super glue's consistency when you get it in. Just to test it, I put a syringe into the top of it, and I heard it go thunk, and it globbed up into the syringe, and I had to throw it away. So yeah, you've got to heat it up to work.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a big learning curve when we first started working with Delta 8, but yeah, what it boils down to is every tool you use has to be heated because it cools down that quick, and then it's a solid.
Huh. Interesting. So you've already got like your. So what are you using? I mean, I know you're using terpenes to cut it with, but are you heating, I guess, in like a container and then adding the terpenes to get that consistency you're looking for?
So you have to heat your Delta 8 separately initially from your terpenes.
Okay.
And you want to add them. You don't want to get. That's the real issue, mixing it, getting it mixed well, but not applying so much heat to it. You burn the terpenes. And then not letting it get so cool that it won't mix itself either.
Okay.
And trying to keep that range for that time period while you're getting it mixed, and then get it into your filling gun or filling machine, and trying to get it into the carts is, like Nick said, everything's got to be heated along the way.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so
I could see that to move it
So
around.
you homogenize it while it's heated,
Okay.
and then you have to. You blast it with a heat gun while you pour it into the. So he's got to.
You're constantly.
So he's got to heat it while he's pouring it into the gun to fill the carts. So the gun's heated to keep it warm while he's filling them. We have a new machine where it's all self-contained, and we'll be able to just go through and squirt it in. But we won't be able to set that up until we get a new facility. Yeah.
Awesome. Man.
But yeah, so that's the other thing about our carts is we exclusively use C-Cell brand carts that we get through an official C-Cell distributor. Most people out there are ordering stuff from China.
Yeah, I know that's a huge concern. It's got like lead and lead and mercury, I think.
Yeah,
so when it vaporizes, it's going right into your lungs.
And usually they just buy the cheapest thing that's available to them.
You mass produce billions of those things. Of course they're going to cut corners.
So we pay more for our carts, but we make sure that we're getting something that we like. Again, like everything else, we're comfortable with it.
Exactly.
Get nice black ceramic tips to go on it, so it looks really slick too.
Like
but that's another thing we do to try and make sure our quality is good on every aspect of the product. We make sure to get high quality parts to use as well, and we get very few defects.
Yeah.
We've gone through tons of those things, and there's been maybe 3 or 4 that have ever been brought back.
It's less than a 1% defective rate on them. I mean, it's pretty impressive.
That's awesome. That's again with quality. It's like what you're saying. I'm not going to put it in my body. Why the hell would I sell somebody else?
And vape cart business is getting a little more complicated since the government's making all the new rules and stuff about it.
But they can't be flavored. Is that like one of their new things?
The biggest one for us were the shipping restrictions. So it's not just final cartridges with product in them that you can't send through the mail. They're not even allowed to send empty cartridges through the mail.
Well, yeah.
So we had to figure out a way to solve that, which essentially was you have to buy enough carts that they'll throw them on a freight truck instead of put them in the mail. So
I didn't know that you weren't allowed to buy cartridges like that through the mail.
Yeah,
so what the hell are you supposed to buy them?
You can come into a store like this and buy them in person.
Sure, yeah, but I'm talking about like you guys wanting to like fill them, like when you order, like there's no other way around it besides.
Yeah, so there's no, that's it. Really just affected businesses.
Yeah.
But the reason they did it was because underage people order vape carts off the internet.
Sure,
there's really no system of checks and balances.
Okay.
So I get why they did it, but I don't know why they did it to the point where it interrupts businesses trying to do what they're doing.
Yeah, especially if you don't need thousands of them at a time, especially if you're just getting started off, man.
So we had to save up some money, get a bunch more carts at once than we normally get, but we should be able to keep the carts flowing now.
Nice.
Man, I don't know of any other company offhand that's using real cannabis derived terpenes in their carts either.
I think so.
Yeah, that was one of the jumps we made a few months back, was getting real cannabis derived terpenes, and it really is a night and day between that and other plant-based recreations. Because it just, the first time they brought the shipment in, I almost had a headache. The terpenes were just, they smelled so strong, even through the packaging. It was just the deep OG and blueberry.
Nice. I like it.
Abner pushed for it for like a month or two, and I was just like, I don't think people are going to care that much. I don't think it's worth the extra cost. They sent us a sample the first time, wasn't it? So we just used that sample. The difference in taste was night and day. Like our carts already tasted good, but then when we tried the true cannabis-derived terpenes, we were both sort of blown back by it. And we charge $5 extra for the ones made that way, and
worth it.
we sell more of those now than the cheaper ones. Like people like them so much more that we started expanding our line after that. So
that's awesome.
Learn my lesson once in a while. Abner's right.
Oh, man. Where are you guys' hours here?
We're noon to 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday. Right now, we're gonna probably tack on some later hours on like Thursday, Friday, and Saturday here pretty soon. Like I said, we're sort of up in the air because we're in the process of moving the facility and getting someone else to watch the store. So
hire somebody there too.
Yes, well, we got someone already hired. We're just gonna give them more hours.
I got you. Cool.
But we have to work with her and make sure it's all gonna work for her schedule and stuff. But we wanna try and be open later on the weekends when people are sort of out at the restaurants and stuff here.
So you guys it does get kind of busy down here.
Yeah. Because Elkin's not a huge place. There's only so many places to go on the weekends, and
I haven't been up here in a while.
We're lucky enough to be right across the street from one of the biggest restaurants in town. So I figure we'll try later hours on the weekends. But yeah, right now noon to 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday.
You guys doing any festivals anytime soon?
Pumpkin Festival actually.
Where's that at?
Right here in Elkin.
Okay, cool.
They usually draw a lot of people.
Yeah, we're always looking for more events, so if anybody out there has an event, you're looking for vendors, feel free to contact us. You can find us on Facebook at Yadkin Valley Hemp Online or Akhenaten Extracts. Both have a page. We're on Instagram.
I'll throw up a link on that too somehow.
Okay, and we have our own website, akextract.com.
The word that I can't say very well.
Yeah, we didn't want to make people spell out Akhenaten. It's just akextract.com.
Nice.
And yeah, we'll try and give you the information.
Absolutely. Everything put up there. Well, fellas, I'm glad you guys had me out here. It's been fun talking to you guys.
Yeah, man.
Again, this is Yadkin Valley Hemp in Elkin. Come down here, check it out, get some good quality CBD products, CBD flowers, all kinds of good stuff.